Good. Mrs. Bianca Anthor, First Lieutenant, Army Nurse Corps. Service of date, June 1944 to March 1946. Place of interview is at Mr. Lance Bull's house. The date is January 1st, 2007. January 6th, 2007. The time is 1:36. And I am Ricky Picarota. What is your full name?
Bianca Anthor.
Okay.
I did not serve under that name.
No?
No.
What was the name that you
My
served
maiden
under?
name, I hate to tell you this, but it's Giangregorio. G-I-A-N
Mm-hmm.
G-R-E
Mm-hmm.
G-O-R-I-O.
Italian. It's like me. My last name is Picarota. Okay. When and where were you born?
Italy.
Italy? Really?
Mm-hmm.
What?
December 18th,
Mhm.
1921.
Okay. What, did you have any education, like, before you were even into the war or involved in anything like that?
Any education?
Like, high school education, college
I
education?
graduated from Watertown High School.
Okay.
And then 3 years of nursing.
Okay. Did you always, like, think that you wanted to be a nurse, or?
No, I wanted to be a doctor, but in those days they didn't take many women. And I didn't have any money.
It's kind of difficult, huh? Did you have any pre-war occupation, or?
No.
No? Okay. Can you recall, like, the,
I did have pre-war occupation after nursing, I'm sorry. I worked at Mercy Hospital doing general duty, and somebody offered me a job for $75 a month.
wow. Back then, that was quite a
That
lot.
was a lot of money then.
Right.
And it was at a TB sanitarium for TB.
Okay. For tuberculosis?
Hmm.
Okay.
And I stayed there the whole year until I enlisted.
Okay. Was there any specific reasons for you enlisting?
Everybody else was going. I had two brothers that were serving, and I thought, they get hurt, I want somebody to take care of them.
Right. So you decided to enlist as a nurse, and okay. Do you recall, like, the event at Pearl Harbor? Do you remember where you were? What?
I
Like,
sure do. I was a student nurse, and I was sitting doing my homework. And it came over the radio. One of the girls had the radio on, and we just looked at each other and we said, "Well, where's Pearl Harbor?" We didn't even know it was part of Hawaii.
Oh,
Right.
brilliant! I don't mind.
Right.
Hi, guys.
Anyway,
And
and you know, it was like a shock to all of us.
how did you hear about it? Was it just the news or the radio?
On the radio,
Okay. Where were you when you heard this? You were
right in my room at Mercy Hospital, studying for an anatomy test.
Was it that day that you heard it, or was it
The next morning.
next morning? So, like, it wasn't really widely televised or telecasted?
Oh, yes.
Oh, like,
They kept there's no television then.
right.
It was on the radio constantly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What was your reaction? Were you angry, or were you, like,
Shocked.
right? Kind of, surprised that anybody could actually attack the U.S.?
Yeah.
A lot of people thought it really couldn't happen back then, right?
We didn't know what to make of it, really. I don't think we realized the immensity of it.
Right. Okay. When did you enter the service?
In June of 1944. I got through training in 43, worked for a year, and then I enlisted.
Okay, so you enlisted, you weren't part of the draft or anything?
No.
Okay.
Nurses weren't drafted, we volunteered.
Okay.
You had to go through the Red Cross. You had to be a member of the Red Cross before you could enlist.
And you chose the nurse course because you wanted to help people like your brothers in the Army, right?
Yeah, if they got hurt, I want somebody to take care of them.
Mm-hmm. Where did you receive basic training?
Atlantic City,
New Jersey?
New Jersey.
Do you have any experiences or feelings how basic training was?
It was hard, but it certainly prepared us for what we were going to go through.
Right.
And the one thing that I remember was they had us go climb up this ladder on a cement block, and then they had a rowboat below us with a rope ladder.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what sticks in my mind. It was so lucky that they had us do that, because it's kind of tricky on a rope ladder to descend to a boat on water.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a good thing they did, because that's what we had to do.
So did you enjoy basic training, or was it really rough and really
It
tough?
was rough.
Right.
It was rough. I was only 5 foot,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to scale a 6-foot wall.
Wow.
Yeah, they put us through quite a rigorous,
Even the nurses and all the women, they trained you guys the same as the men, or?
just about, except for I don't think they shot. We had to crawl, to go under barbed wire.
Mm-hmm.
But I know my brothers had to go crawling with machine gun fire going over their head.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any friends that you met while you were at basic training, or that you recall or remember?
Several of the girls from Mercy were there, believe it or not.
Now, when you guys
In
met,
fact, my roommate and I enlisted together, and we stayed together the whole time.
your roommate from Mercy?
Yeah.
Cool. Do you, did like any of you guys meet up when you were over in Europe?
Well, she was with me. Yeah, one other girl that used to come and visit when we were in Reims. Well, during basic, we saw each other every day,
Mm-hmm.
I met my brother on the street of Paris.
Really?
I had 2 days leave to go to Paris from Reims,
Mm-hmm.
and we're walking along the Champs-Élysées, and this GI grabs me. I thought, what is wrong with him? And he had a helmet on, and I couldn't see his face. It was my brother.
You didn't even know it?
No, he was looking to find, or trying to find out where I was stationed.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know where he was either.
That's cool. Your dates of service were from June 1944 to March 1946? Did you enjoy the time you spent in the Army, or?
It was an experience.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put it that way. I can't say it was all enjoyment. We
Right.
worked very hard.
Mm-hmm.
We worked from 7 in the morning to 7 at night, or 7 at night to 7 in the morning. 12-hour shifts,
Non-stop.
non-stop.
And your specific training was just nursing, right?
Yes.
What was your unit?
The 178th General Hospital.
Were you assigned to like any certain ship, or before you went over?
A what?
Like, were you on like any certain ship assignment or anything?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. And you were in the European theater?
In the European theater, yeah.
Okay.
We left right from New York. I was stationed at Fort J, Governor's Island,
Mm-hmm.
before, it was October when we went over.
Right. So,
And,
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Well, I'm not supposed to interrupt, so.
It was, October 3rd or somewhere around there. And we were put in, in trucks and taken to a dock, and the ship was there waiting for us.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said you were just in the European theater, so does that mean when the war ended, you guys weren't sent to the Pacific theater to help?
We volunteered for the CBI,
Mm-hmm.
China, Burma, India theater,
Okay.
but they dropped the bomb in
Oh.
June
Mhm.
that year,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't send us there. But I ended up in Austria for occupation with the 3rd Army, Patton's Army.
Do you have any experiences from that? Can you recall being occupied in Austria?
No, it was peacetime then. It was after the war was over.
So how were the citizens and like the people around? Were they like grateful that you guys were there? Or
Yeah.
there was no like negative reactions?
No.
No? Were you in any really major battles?
I have one battle star for the camp, the Ardennes forest.
The Battle of the Bulge?
Yeah, the Battle of the Bulge, right.
Can you describe what that was like?
We were a 1,000-bed hospital, and we had 100 nurses, so that meant you had 100 patients to each nurse.
Wow.
With 2 corpsmen. And we would have to do triage every morning because the trains would come in with maybe 1,000 men wounded. And 1,000 have to go out and 1,000 came in.
Right.
Sometimes we didn't even have enough beds. We'd have to put them on litters on the floor.
It was still crowded?
Yeah.
Was it just men?
We were getting them right from the battlefield. Some of them were still in their uniforms.
Really?
Yeah.
Kind of chaotic and grotesque, huh?
Shrapnel wounds,
Mostly from artillery fire?
mostly. The 88, the Germans 88s. What were you wounded with? German 88.
That's what the common...
Yeah.
Yep. Was like there ever any time like when people were coming in, did you ever felt overwhelmed and like that you couldn't keep going on?
No, we were young and foolish. And we had a lot of energy. And boy, they had prepared us. We spent 2 months in England before we went to, what's that city down in England that you cross over? I can't remember. And we had a march every day, 5-mile hikes. So we were, pretty healthy shape when we got to France.
Right.
We couldn't land in France,
No?
We were supposed to have gone to Cherbourg, which is another city. And the ships were sunken. So many ships had been sunk that they couldn't get near the dock.
In the channel?
Yeah, after crossing the channel from England.
Okay.
We were taken to, well, first of all, the ship couldn't get to a dock because of the sunken ships. So we went near Le Havre, which is another seaport.
Okay.
And even there they couldn't go by the dock. So what happened, we had to go over the side of the ship into a landing barge. And they took us to the beach, like, our infantry. And it was a little place called Etretat on the coast of France. I think what they were afraid of was planes coming over.
And bombing?
Yeah, because they did it at midnight in the dark.
Was this the German Luftwaffe?
Yeah, coming over. Yeah.
So that was the final port that you guys were finally reached land and got off your ships?
Yeah. The ship, the landing barge, really isn't it, a big ship, landed with such force on the beach that one of the doctors fell and broke his arm. So that was our first casualty.
So right when you got off the boat, you had to tend to somebody, huh? What was it like, crossing, getting off the ship and going into like a landing vehicle and finally hitting land?
It was kind of scary.
Really? Were you guys nervous or excited?
No, hey, we were tired. You had to have your full pack, your helmet, which is very heavy over the liner, and your pistol belt with the canteen. We were not very big.
Right.
I was like 120 pounds, and you had all this equipment, your blanket, everything on you. And we stood on line for about 2 hours before we had the signal to go. And each one of us had to go over the side of the ship.
They equipped even you guys as nurses with pistols and everything?
No pistols. But we had a pistol belt to carry first aid and the canteen.
Okay. See. Now you said that your brothers were also in the service. Do you know where they were stationed at any times, or?
Yeah, my brother was in the same outfit as my husband, and they were in field artillery. They crossed all the way from D-Day Beach to Czechoslovakia. My husband ended up with, and my brother.
Did you meet your husband in the service?
I met him before the service.
Okay. So you guys were you married before you guys both enlisted, or?
I met him only and dated him for a while.
Okay.
And he left the same time my brother did for service, which was over a year before. And I saw my boyfriend at the time. He was my boyfriend once in Europe after the war was over. They had a place called Marmelon, and it was like a repo depot, they call it, where all the troops would be sent to go home when they were ready. And my brother was there, my to-be husband came, and another friend of mine from New York. And they all came to the hospital because we were only 10 miles from Marmelon where they were stationed. And so they said goodbye to me and took off.
Right. Do you recall any other times during the war where you met up with your boyfriend and your other brothers, or no?
No.
Those are the only times?
Yeah.
Let's see. What did your husband do?
What?
Like what?
Field artillery.
Field artillery?
Yeah. He was, let me think, ammunition.
Ammunition.
Yeah.
So he was in the Battle of the Bulge also?
Oh yeah. He got 5 battle stars through Europe.
Wow. Now, during the Battle of the Bulge, you said that you were attending at hospitals. Were you ever on the frontline hospitals, or?
Well, we were getting them with their uniforms on.
Right.
And artillery was going over our head. That's how far back the Germans had broken through.
80-something miles, right? And did you guys ever have to pick up your hospital one time, or like just move it, or did you?
No.
You guys were always stationed.
Yeah, this was a general hospital. It was supposed to be at least way back from the front lines, but they didn't expect the Germans to break through.
Right. Now, when the Germans were firing artillery, were they ever landing close to the hospital, or was it always just going overhead?
No, they never got us any direct hit or anything.
Right.
We just heard our own artillery going over.
Those were the howitzers?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have any, certain feelings about combat? Or?
Oh, when the planes came, we had to take care of the patients. Anybody that could walk had to go down to the basement. They would be taken down by one of the nurses. And then one of us would have to stay with the rest. We'd have to put them, even if they couldn't walk or anything, we'd have to pick them up and put them under the bed with the mattress on top of them, in case the bomb was, would hit. Thankfully, it never did.
So, being that there were a lot of men in this hospital, the hospital that you were at, it was kind of chaotic?
No, it was what would you say? Well planned and, carried out.
Right. And you said you received a battle star. Do you have any other medals or citations? Or?
I guess the state gave us a citation. I don't know. I don't pay much attention to those things.
And why did you receive these?
One from the state, I believe, gave us a citation for service and your discharge, I guess.
Yeah. You would receive battle stars for being in battles or for doing something?
Because we were in the area where there was a battle.
Okay. Did you ever were you able to keep in touch with your family at home or any of your
Oh,
friends?
yeah, we wrote, V-mail they called it. Little letters that I guess they photographed and sent. In fact, we had to censor some of the enlisted men's letters every
Really?
day, yeah.
How often did you write home?
Probably once a week.
Once a week. Was it heavily censored at the time because of the war?
Yeah, that was part of our duty. We had to censor the patient's letters before they could mail them out.
Mm-hmm. Were the nurses' letters and everybody's, were they censored too before they were
No,
sent
not
out?
ours, but the enlisted
Just the
personnel we had to do. They gave that as part of your duties during the week,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
after you got off work.
Can you recall any, the food type or anything? C
During
rations?
basic, it was pretty bad.
K rations and C
K
rations?
rations, C rations, but once you were back at in Atlantic City, we were stationed at a hotel,
Mm-hmm.
and it was okay there. The ship was pretty bad. We had meals only 6 in the morning and 6 at night. And the one thing I can still remember with the breakfast, stewed kidney for breakfast. It was horrible.
Do you remember any of the supplies that ever came in?
Supplies?
Like for the soldiers, for you guys at the hospitals? Ammunition, food supplies?
Yeah, everything was always coming in and out, but I mean, I wasn't, didn't do any work for that.
Right. Were there always trucks on the move and everything?
Yes.
So there's constantly people moving. Was there ever a time of day or time of night that everything was stopped and it was really dark?
No,
No.
not really.
No.
Even after the war, we had a lot of displaced people coming back that were ill or liberated from the concentration camps.
You
Some of those patients came through after the war.
came through to your hospitals?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what was that like seeing these people?
Well, for one thing, you had to delouse them.
What's that?
Oh, they had to put stuff on for the lice that they had.
Okay.
And they had nothing. There were people walking around with just the clothes on their backs. Displaced people from their homes that were bombed out.
Mm-hmm. So, was it kind of ghastly to see these people? Were they just kind of walking figurines of ghosts?
Yeah, it's
Pretty horrific.
I felt a lot of empathy for them.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't sympathize with them because I didn't do that.
Right. Were you ever wounded or hurt in any way during your time of service?
I had a tooth pulled, but that's about it. My wisdom tooth.
Right.
And I went to work the next day too.
They never gave you a day off, huh?
Well, she was surprised I was on duty, but the chief nurse did check. She said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm okay."
Mm-hmm. Was there anything going through your mind, during times of combat or being at the hospital? Did anything keep running through your mind over and over?
Some of the patients were real, bad cases. You remembered a lot of them. I don't remember their names, but I remember them.
A lot of the patients, did they have battlefront fatigue?
Oh yeah, I've seen shrapnel in every part of a man's body, just about. And we had sulfa that we had to give out to prevent infection, and penicillin later on. When penicillin was first started to be used.
Right. Can you recall some of the people that cracked when they were on the front line and they came back and they were kind of went crazy and lost everything and lost their mind? and you couldn't send them back?
No, I don't remember. No, because most of the GIs, if they weren't badly wounded, if it meant just a few days, we would take care of them, send them back to duty. But if it was over days, then you had to ship them out.
Right.
Triage went on almost every day.
Do you recall any cases of self-inflicted wounds that you had to deal with
After the war,
after the war?
a lot of them didn't want to go to the Pacific. And yeah, we had toes shot off.
They do anything to try to get out of the war? Or
Yeah.
try to get out of the battles?
So they wouldn't have to go. I don't blame them.
Right. Do you have like any most memorable experiences in the war?
What can I tell you? Patience, patience. I worked in almost every part of the hospital. They sent you wherever you were needed. I was in the shock ward, ear, nose, and throat. I've seen paratroopers that came down and branches of trees went through them. And when they landed, and eye injuries, and everywhere. You had unbelievable. Even after the war, we had lots of accidents and stuff happening. So we still had patience galore.
So even after all the combat was over, you guys were still pretty busy?
Yeah, we still were, yeah.
Being like, you know, when you're away from all the patients and everything, did you ever get a chance to sit down and talk with your buddies and your friends and everything?
I went to one reunion. The 178th had a reunion. That's about all. We've never gotten together.
Did your families know your whereabouts and like what you were doing back at home?
No, we weren't allowed to tell them anything.
Right.
Where you were, especially. No, we never had to talk about it.
How'd they deal with the war and being that you were absent and they knew you were there?
My mother had 3 of us in.
So was she kind of nerve-wracked?
I saved my oldest brother from going in, really. He
Really?
was married and had 2 children. And still they would have drafted him if I hadn't gone in, but because he would be the only son left, they let him. They didn't draft him.
Did you see any of our commanders, like did you see?
Eisenhower,
Really?
yes. I marched in the VE Day Parade, May 6th, 1945.
So you didn't.
That was held in Reims.
Right.
I worked all night and then had to march in that parade all day.
Right. So you actually took part in the VE Day parade. So
Yes, I did.
So instead of hearing about it, you were part of it. What were your feelings about VE Day?
I guess we were all glad.
Did you see any other commanders or high-ranked officers in the field besides Eisenhower?
I'm trying to think. We had a lot of. We went to a big thing that they had. It was after the war. I'm trying to think. They wanted nurses to go to this big thing, a big dinner party that General Mark Clark was giving at his headquarters. This was in Austria. And it was like a castle that we went into. And there were several high-ranking people there, but I couldn't tell you all their names now.
Right. Did you have any motivation throughout the war to keep you going?
No, I just wanted to go home.
And were there any times you never really felt like giving up because
No,
you always kept going, looking forward?
yeah.
Although it was a time of war and everything, do you recall any times where you were really happy or the pleasant recollections?
Yeah, I was happy most of the time. I don't think it worried us that much.
Right.
We just did our work and that was it.
Hmm. Were there any special events that you got to do, like being in the war?
Oh, they sent us for a week. This was after the war, after the war was over in Europe anyway.
Hmm.
We got to go to the Riviera.
French Riviera?
Yeah, the French Riviera.
Um,
In a city called Juan-les-Pins.
what was that? What was it?
Juan-les-Pins.
On the Pines?
Mm-hmm.
What was
It's right near Nice. It's between Nice and I can't think of the other city now. It was beautiful there.
the French Riviera?
There was a place called Eaton Rock, and I believe the Duke and Duchess of Windsor used to go there.
Really?
And they had it for us to go to swim there.
Hmm.
And overlooking from Eden Rock, it was way up high. You could look down and see Monaco.
Hmm. Do you recall any other experiences while in the French Riviera for the week?
We had a good time, a real good time. They had real waiters and your dining room. You could go to any hotel in the Riviera and eat wherever you wanted to.
Hmm.
It was almost like restaurants.
Right. Say, being that you were in the Battle of the Bulge and the Germans infiltrated the American lines, and they came within, we went 80 miles into our front. How close did you actually come to the enemy?
I had prisoners of war.
Really?
Yeah, I worked on one of the wards that we had a whole ward full of them that had to be taken care of.
So you guys took care of enemy prisoners and
Yeah.
stuff? Did you ever get the chance to talk to any of them?
No, because most of them only spoke German,
Hmm.
and I learned a few words.
Right. How were their reactions towards you?
You didn't get much
Right,
reaction.
right.
I had this is interesting, a Russian pilot that came in our hospital.
Hmm.
He had bailed out on fire and was badly burned. His hands, the fingers were all clumped together, and he had no eyelids. And he came to us to have plastic surgery, for his eyesight would have gone if we didn't make a lid for him, and that's what the doctors were doing.
So you guys kind of had to take care of him for
He
quite
was
a while?
very young. He was, and he couldn't speak any English.
No?
Scared. He used to tear his bandages off. I don't know why, but he did sometimes.
Hmm. Would he be screaming in this process, or just?
Well, I guess he thought we were torturing him or something. I don't know, because none of us spoke Russian, and we couldn't make him understand anything.
Right. How do you feel about the enemy today? Like the Germans or the Japanese? Do you have any regards to them?
Not really. I'm sure they did what they did when they had to do it, and we did the same thing, really.
Did you feel any different when you were in the war, or no?
Sort of. You were wary of any place you went or anything you did.
Mm-hmm.
Your contact with the civilians wasn't that great because we lived right there at the hospital. You just had to go across a walkway and you were at your rooms, and, so we didn't. I did go into Reims. I saw the Reims Cathedral.
Mm-hmm. Was that beautiful, or?
Oh yes, Notre Dame. Yeah.
Notre Dame.
It's even more beautiful.
In Paris.
Notre Dame Cathedral is sort of squatty Gothic.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is all spires.
Yep. I actually got to see that last year.
Did you?
I went to France with my school.
Oh, so you've been in Reims?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've been in
that's
Reims,
great.
Paris. It's really, really beautiful.
We were way up at the top of the Reims Cathedral, and we could actually see the flyer in a P-38 go by,
Yeah.
wave to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how close he was.
That's neat. So you can actually like see the pilot in the plane.
Yeah.
That's cool. How do you feel about your military experiences?
How do I feel? Sometimes I think about how sad it was.
Mm-hmm.
Here I am tearing up.
Mm-hmm.
It was sad to see so many young men. And I don't think anybody wins in a war. Certainly not the enemy, and not the people who are doing it or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel bad that there has to be any kind of a war.
It's a terrible thing. And there's always going to be loss of life, so I mean, how did you deal with the loss of life? It was so tremendous and everything. How did you let that not affect you?
You got hardened to it. You had to help them. I don't think today I could do what I did when I was young.
Mm-hmm. Took a lot of guts, huh? Pretty horrific.
It did, really did.
Do you find it hard to watch documentaries and movies on the war today? Does it bring back up like a lot of upsetting memories and stuff?
Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
I mean, I was only a nurse. I just,
right.
my sympathy was with the GI in the field.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, that's how my husband got to be a sergeant. The sergeant in charge of ammunition was machine gunned down, and he took his place.
Did your husband have any like really exciting moments or experiences?
Oh yeah, I wish he were here to tell you.
Mm-hmm. Can you recall any?
They even had to be careful. In the Ardennes, our own planes bombed them.
Friendly
Would you
fire?
believe that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't do it on purpose, of course, but he always told the story. They were sitting there having their noon meal of K rations, and you sit on your helmet usually,
Mm-hmm.
and or I guess he must have been sitting on a tree or a log or something, and all of a sudden the planes came over and were dropping bombs, which they didn't expect at all. And he got up in such a hurry that he put his mess kit with beans on his head and ran, and he sees the helmet on the ground, and he says, "What fool didn't take his helmet?" He's thinking. And it was his own helmet he hadn't picked up.
So he put his food all over his head?
Yeah. It was a while before he realized the beans were coming down.
Yeah. I guess in times when everything's going on, you just don't think, you just do, right?
Yeah. Like you say, we were very naive, even on the ship. I used to think they were dumping garbage pails over the side.
Mm-hmm.
These big green, they looked like garbage pails to me. And we'd stand there at the rail of the ship watching them dumping them. And I was telling my husband about it. And he said, "What are you talking about? They don't dump garbage." And I said, "Well, the big green pails." He said, "Those were depth charges for the submarines." And I didn't even realize it.
Mm-hmm. Being so young that you guys just didn't know.
We didn't even think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Young and foolish.
Were your husband or your brothers ever wounded in war, or were they?
No. They were very lucky. My other brother was in the Air Corps,
Mm-hmm.
China, Burma, India.
In the Pacific Theater, or just in the China, Burma, India?
China, Burma, India.
Okay.
I'm not too familiar. He was part of the crew.
Of a B-29 or?
I think so.
Okay. I didn't know if he was like a fighter pilot or something.
No.
Just
no.
a
He was
crewman?
part of the crew. He was a sergeant.
Did Grandpa get one?
Pardon?
Grandpa?
Oh, well, he was in the Air Corps during the Korean War.
Mm-hmm. How long did your husband serve in the military?
He stayed in. He re-enlisted. When he got home from the European War, his job had been taken, and somebody had the job, and he didn't feel like, demanding it back, and he didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing, he re-enlisted, but he didn't want to go in the Army again. He was tired of digging foxholes.
Yeah.
So he enlisted in the Air Corps.
Was he was wounded in the Korean War? Or?
No.
No?
No, the only time he got was in Europe. A tracer bullet hit his thigh, but he never put in for it, so he never got a Purple Heart or anything.
Right. Probably didn't really mean that much to him.
No, it was just a, flesh wound.
Like a graze wound?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember where you were when the war ended?
Yeah, on duty at this 178.
Still at the hospital?
Yeah.
Can you describe how you felt?
I think I was on night duty. Yes, I was on night duty because I had to go to the parade the next day when they had the parade.
Mm-hmm.
And, officers get this liquor ration every month.
Yeah.
And I brought a bottle of gin. I didn't drink it. I hated the stuff. So I brought it to the ward where I was on, and I got these little glasses, and they gave each GI a shot to celebrate.
Mm-hmm. Were you aware of the concentration camps and everything the Germans were doing at the time during the war?
Not to the extent that I know about them now.
Right. So, like, not much
But
was really talked
I had a prisoner of war that came through, a young boy. He was a real young. I was on night duty, and he'd be up at 4 o'clock walking the halls. And I'd say, why can't you sleep? He says, because I'm afraid the dogs may come. And I said, what dogs? We don't have dogs. And that's when he told me the story, that's how they used to wake them up when they were in the camps.
Would dogs come in barking? Or?
And if they didn't get up, the dogs would bite them.
Right. No, these like German shepherds and like mean dogs and everything?
That's what he told me.
What was your reactions like to his stories and finding out about the concentration camps?
I couldn't believe it. It was too horrible to... It's hard to accept a man's inhumanity to another man.
Mm-hmm.
I still can't accept it.
Right. I mean, how can one person do this to other people?
No.
Were the people that came in from the concentration camps, could they speak English?
Not all of them.
Not all of them?
Not all of them, but quite a few of our own men came through that needed, help, and some civilians too.
Did you ever get to get any more stories from concentration camp survivors besides that little boy?
No,
No.
not really. Most people didn't talk too much.
They were kind of just straightforward and shocked. And did you get any more stories out of the little boy about the one that told you about the dogs?
No, because he went out, shipped out.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't keep them too long because we were still getting a lot of patients.
Right. Did you have any specific feelings or what you thought about Harry S. Truman's decision to use the atomic bomb?
I didn't know enough about it at the time to even have any feelings about it. I don't think we should have ever used it.
Right. Even.
Now, knowing the consequences of it,
Mhm.
I don't think any of us realized what it was at the time it was used.
Right. Would you have rather us invaded Japan instead of dropping the atomic bombs?
I think they were ready to surrender. If they had listened to General MacArthur, that wouldn't have ever happened, because he could have starved all those men on those islands, those Japanese that were entrenched, by not letting any supplies go in.
Right, like on Saipan.
But
or
no,
those?
they had to go and lose all those men by, taking one island after the other, which was foolish, I think.
Yeah, losses were kind of catastrophic. Did you ever learn about VJ Day?
Yeah. When they dropped the bombs, when they decided they didn't need us for the CBI.
Right. So then you guys were called off and sent back
Called
home?
off, and we were sent to Austria for occupation. See, if you didn't have 35 points, and you earned those per month, I guess that you were overseas,
Mhm.
you couldn't go home right away.
Right.
Of course, they couldn't ship out all the, you realize how many troops they had in Europe?
Mhm.
And so you had to wait your turn. So we volunteered, my friend and I, because you earn more when you're in a battle area than when you're not.
Mhm.
And so we decided to see another part of the world. And when they dropped the bomb in June, that meant, everything stopped. And that's how I got to Austria for occupation.
So, when VJ Day occurred, do you recall where you were?
VE Day?
Or no, VJ Day.
VJ Day.
Do you recall like where you were? Like,
I was still at the 178th.
okay. Was this in the Ardennes or was?
No. The Ardennes was way before that.
Okay.
See, that was the Christmas. The reason I remember, because it was my birthday, December 18th. We were in Paris, waiting for a train to take us to Reims. And what am I trying to tell you?
Oh, your feelings about VJ Day, where you were.
Oh, no, it wasn't that I was trying to tell you.
Oh.
I don't know, I've lost my thought.
Maybe you're talking about the General Hospital in the Ardennes and where the difference was.
Yeah, VJ Day, the Ardennes was a battle that they had during the European War.
Right.
And that was over already
Right.
in May.
So in VJ Day.
The bomb was way after that June, I think.
So during VJ Day, you were at the hospital, the General Hospital.
I was still there,
Okay.
waiting to go to CBI.
Right. And once VJ Day happened, you were called
They
off.
canceled everything.
Were you feeling? Did you have any specific feelings about this? Were you happy? Were you?
Yeah, I didn't want to go to, I'd taken care of some of the Pacific guys. I was stationed at 4J, Governor's Island, before going overseas, and we used to get shipload after shipload of patients from both theaters. And a lot of them had skin diseases and malaria and a few other things they came back with.
Right.
So I was glad I didn't have to go. I hate insects.
Insects bug you?
Things that crawl. And boy, there's a lot of that over there.
Do you recall like your feelings when you learned about FDR's death?
I wasn't surprised.
Because did you know that he had polio? Were you aware of that?
Yeah, do you know that now they don't think it was polio?
Really?
Some of them think that it was like the Lou Gehrig's disease more. I don't know, I've heard this and read about it, but I don't know that much about it.
Right. So you weren't really shocked or surprised or anything, but were you upset?
Not really. Not really. When he died, we were doing pretty good.
Mhm. Now, you grew up during the Depression, correct?
Yes,
So, do you remember what that was like?
yeah.
Was it really bad?
We had enough to eat, but we didn't have what the kids have today,
Mhm.
and you knew better than to even ask for it.
Right.
That was the difference. You knew that your mother and father were doing the best they could.
So everything was really limited and everything. Did you guys ration at the time, or?
Did we ration?
Um,
During the war,
During the war, yeah.
the people at home had to.
right. But during the Depression, in order to get food and everything, didn't you guys have to have like stamps or like a thing that you had to turn in?
I think you're thinking about rationing during
Yeah.
the war. Yeah,
Okay.
they had stamps.
Okay.
Uh-huh. For sugar and butter and stuff that was limited.
Okay. But during the Depression, was everything like utter abysmal, and were people's spirits really down and?
I think the men of the families felt it more than anybody because they couldn't get jobs.
Right.
It was very hard on
Mhm.
them, I think.
Being in depression, that 25% of America
Yeah,
was
just
unemployed.
think about graduating from high school, and most of the men at that time, or boys, would be going to work when you finished high school.
Right.
The rich went to college,
Mhm.
but the middle class didn't, way
Mhm.
back then.
So once the depression hit, once they got out of school, they didn't have any work, and people were panicking.
Exactly. And I think it hit them the worst of anybody.
Mhm. So, were you like excited when FDR took over during the depression? Did you feel like he could help us anyway and get us out of it?
Yeah, it was something good that he did at the time. Not everybody liked FDR.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of critics and everything about the New Deal, right?
I've heard men say, if he gets in again, I'm going to Canada.
So even during the war, people criticized him, or no?
No, not during the war.
But just during the depression?
Yeah.
Did it eventually die out, or the criticism?
Oh, yeah.
Do you view FDR as one of our greatest presidents?
I think he had good ideas. We have him to thank for Social Security,
Mhm.
which I think has been one of the best things they could have done.
Right. In the issue of Social Security, do you have any feelings towards like George Bush and how he's kind of not
He
really...
better keep his hands off it, or he'll have a revolution.
Right, right.
That's all I can say.
Right. Isn't he trying to do away with it, or?
Well, he's trying to privatize it, is what he's trying to do.
Right.
And that puts you at the mercy of Wall Street.
Mhm.
If the market is up, you make money. If it's down, you lose a lot.
Right.
And that's not what Social Security is for.
Mm-hmm. It's for to help the elderly, right?
Yeah. And that money that's being taken from you and your employer
Mm-hmm.
is put in a safe place, not in the Wall Street market.
Mm-hmm.
And Social Security would be fine if they keep their hands off in it.
Right.
You know how many other things borrow money from Social Security?
I have no idea.
Well, you look it up and find how many IOUs there are there that have never been paid back.
Mm-hmm. Was that why Social Security is hurting nowadays, and they're saying that they're running out of money?
I think so. If they leave it alone, they wouldn't be running out of money. But they can't stand seeing all that money accumulate.
Right, right. What do you recall what you did when you arrived home after the war, the post-war period?
Oh boy, I was restless. I started working. Well, first of all, I had a GI Bill,
Mhm.
so I went to college,
Where did you attend college?
St. John's University. I got my BS in nursing education there.
Mhm.
And I was very restless. I had no patience with civilians
Right.
complaining in hospitals. Because when I was working, or going to school, I also worked. I did private duty, and I quit that. And then I finally joined the Visiting Nurse Association in New York City. That's where I worked while I was going to college.
Did you have any? I mean, they're under the GI Bill. Did you like enjoy this? Like, did you appreciate the GI Bill?
It was the only way I could go to college.
Right. They
Yeah.
pay. They pay for everything.
They paid for my tuition, yeah.
Did you have any other occupations after getting out of college?
Nursing,
Just nursing.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed with the visiting nursing of Brooklyn till I got married and had my first child.
Being after the war, did you find it like hard to get back to normal life?
Yeah, it took a while to acclimate, yeah. You do. I think you start appreciating all you have more after you've seen what other people have been through and seeing the devastation. I traveled by train from Reims all the way to Austria, and I could see what they had done to Germany. Did you? No, you didn't. You were there, but you didn't see the buildings all,
Right.
everything leveled.
Oh, I didn't.
It was heartbreaking. And I don't think anybody here could really get an appreciation unless they saw that. What other people had to go through during that war.
Are there any really like memorable experiences or things that really stood out about your husband that you know that he did in the war, some of his actions, or what he did after the war?
Well, he was in Panama. It has beautiful slides of Panama Canal. And what else? He took pictures of all the airplanes in the Korean War, and some had been published in a book.
With the nose art?
The nose art, yeah. Well, Lance would know because he's seen them all. He had beautiful slides of all of them. And you know that he kept going to all their reunions,
Throughout the years?
all through the Air Corps reunions, yeah.
So military
The
was
19th Bomb Group,
the
that's
mil-
what he was in.
the military was a big part of his life and what he did.
Yeah.
He enjoyed it a
was.
lot, or
He did. He really did. He was 89 when he died.
really? What year did he die?
2001.
Do you think that if he hadn't been in World War II, he would have ever been in the military, or
I don't. Well, he might have because of the Depression. He was in the National Guard, and see, his uncle had been in World War I, and then he got a silver medal, in fact, for wiping out a machine gun nest, saving a lot of the other men.
right?
And I think he admired him so much. So he was not drafted. Of course, he wasn't drafted because he was in the National Guard, so he was taken right away.
Right,
In
right.
fact, he gave my brother basic training.
Did it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
You know. But then he got, into the outfit that he was training, and he went overseas with them.
When did he join the National Guard?
Oh my gosh. He was in it before the war started. He must have been, because he was an instructor for the guys.
Do you remember how long he served in the military for?
32 or 33 years, I believe, with the National Guard duty too.
Do you or your husband belong to any veterans organizations?
American Legion, and he belonged to the Battle of the Bulge group. I can't remember the name or the title, but
Right.
there is one.
Are you active in any of these?
No,
Yeah.
I'm ashamed to say that, but I'm not.
Right. Have you attended any reunions since, or just that one for the hospital?
Just that one is all we've ever had that I know about.
When was that again?
Way back, way back. The 61st field. See, I was in a field hospital when I went to Austria. I was not in a big general hospital.
Right.
They had a reunion too, and I did go to that. I lived in New York.
Do you remember when or where they were, or no?
They were in the 50s, I think. Early 50s.
Were they
After that, we've sort of lost touch with any of them.
were they here in the United States, or
Yeah, it was here in the United States.
do you remember where?
In New York City. It was one of the hotels in New York City we went to.
Mm-hmm. So, being that you were in the military and everything, like how did the military experience or change and influence your life?
I don't know. I think it gave me a broader perspective of life in general and what other people have to go through and how other people live. I think it broadens you once you see that.
Right. Looking back on World War II, do you see it as a big moment, like a change or a defining moment in your life?
Yeah, it sure did. 2 years only. It's unbelievable.
How
It
much?
seemed like a lifetime. The days didn't go by very fast.
Did it change your life in any specific ways, or just
Not really. Not really.
made you stronger and more?
Stronger and able to cope.
Mm-hmm. Can you like describe for people that are younger than me and like other people that might not have as much of extensive knowledge of World War II? Can you describe to them like why people shouldn't regard World War II as an area of just old history, something not to worry about? Like,
It can happen again. It can happen again if we don't stop fanatics like Hitler.
mhm.
I mean, it's unbelievable how one man could have caused so much devastation everywhere. Not just for the American young lives that were lost. Do you realize how many crosses there are over there? Did you ever visit any of those cemeteries?
I never got to.
You know,
I never got to actually go to Normandy, but my girlfriend Melissa did. And
it's unbelievable what we left there in
Mhm.
human life. And I think it would be terrible to ever see that again. I really do. I really do. And I think this war that we're involved in right now, we should have never set foot in that.
Mhm.
That's my personal feeling.
Right.
I'm not saying I'm right or wrong.
Do you think that we all need to learn all we can about this time so long ago, even though it was before?
Yes, I think every one of you should study it. Really be aware of what goes on. I think what was going on in Europe, I can't understand how any of those people could accept what was going on and not do something about it. Unbelievable to me. And I feel the same way about us being in Iraq. Why aren't those people doing something for themselves?
Right.
I don't think we should be the watchdog of the world.
We should let people fend for themselves.
Yes, I think you have to deserve freedom. Freedom doesn't come free. And I think if every person felt that way, that maybe we wouldn't have to have help somebody else have freedom every time we turn around.
Do you think that we shouldn't be in Iraq at all? And that's like a big mistake and waste of time? Or?
Yeah, I do. I really and truly do. Because you're not only just trying to liberate a certain section of the country, because there's other sections that don't want you there.
Right.
And you're sort of interfering in a civil war. And I think they should straighten out their own business. I don't think we should interfere.
So, in an overall perspective, are you glad that you went through? Like, are you like,
I
glad?
never regretted it.
Right.
I really didn't. Like I said, it made a better person of me. I've always, what can I say? I've never,
Right.
it taught me a lot. Experience that you would never have
Right.
anywhere else.
Right. Well, Mrs. Anthor, I really appreciate you doing this for me. And
It was nice of you to ask me.
yeah, I mean, I really appreciate it, and I would like to thank you for completing this form to preserve the past of our nation's future. And it really helps.
If he ever publishes the book, I have pictures that I can even let him have,
Okay.
or copy or whatever.
Okay. Maybe I can bring some copies in for him and everything. He'd really appreciate that. And he really appreciates you doing this for me and for him. Because he knows what you guys did, and he appreciates what you guys did, and he wants.
Well, Tom Brokaw really
Yep.
opened the floodgate of emotions in World War II veterans. Because when we came home, everybody was so sick of it that nobody wanted to even talk about it. You ask my 4 children, they didn't know nothing about what we went through, my husband and I. We never talked about it. We didn't have to.
And he's what really brought it out.
Yeah, now everybody's interested in hearing our stories.
Well, it's living history. I mean, you guys are only here for so much longer,
The only thing I have against Tom Brokaw, I don't think he gave the nurses enough credit.
Right. Right.
But like I said, we just took care of those poor guys.
Well, I really appreciate this, Ms. Anthor.
Glad to do it.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, Lance.
Yeah.
Look at that cam.
How do you stop?